Hey everybody, got a video here for you today. We're going to be talking about the Great Pyramid. I have not talked about the Great Pyramid for quite a while. Concentrated on other parts of the world, lost history. But I think this video is long overdue, and I've had these thoughts in my mind for at least a couple of years, and I've commented on this subject. But I guess I've really never made an individual video about this, and it's on the Subterranean chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Right down here. Now this is probably going to be the first of a few videos over the next weeks or so where I talk about the internal chambers and passageways and shafts in the Great Pyramid. I think this is a great mystery. We don't have really any definitive answer of what they are for. Now I've never been to Egypt, so what do I really know anyway? I don't really care about being right. I just care about giving you the best evidence that I can think of based on the reading of the ancient texts that I have done, trying to learn the symbolism of ancient Egypt, tried to learn the archaeoastronomy, what the art means in the tombs, and learned hieroglyphs for about 3 years now. Now this video is not going to go into the dating of these structures, but I think we have a deep history as far as what originally was at Giza. There could have been a few different periods of development, that is for sure. And when did the civilization that we call the dynastic Egyptians start? Did it start in the first dynasty? Or did it go way back in history like the Egyptians tell us it did? They are a legacy civilization. That is according to them. But I think one thing we can all agree on is the people who built these monuments were just not the masters of stonework. They were also the masters of mathematics, geodesy, archaeoastronomy, geometry, astronomy, and just basically how to put a story in stone. Here is a look facing west at the internal chambers in the Great Pyramid. And directions mean a lot when trying to figuring out all this stuff. But here is a look at the King's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, Queen's Chamber, descending passageway, and then the Subterranean chamber down here below. What do all these mean? I think it's a great mystery, and I'm just giving you my best thoughts here. But the Subterranean chamber down here, people say that this is an unfinished burial chamber. And personally, I don't think there was one thing unfinished or unintentional about the Great Pyramid of Giza. Here is a look at the Subterranean chamber beneath the Great Pyramid of Giza. There's been a lot of thoughts on this. Some people think this is unfinished. It was abandoned at one time. And frankly, I do not buy that. But I'm just giving you my best thoughts, what my intuition has been screaming at me, what this represents. Other people think the sarcophagus of Khufu went in this niche here. Some people think water was going through here at one time. But let's just take a look at something from the other side of the world. A lot of people, including Egyptologists, say this was abandoned. It was unfinished because of the rough-cut nature. And it wasn't until I investigated a story coming from Teotihuacan in Mexico that I really got a handle on what this could represent. Now here is a look at a chamber found below the temple of the Plumed Serpent, the large pyramid at the end of the line down there at Teotihuacan. I'm not sure how many years ago that this chamber was found, but just take a look at it here. It's rough cut, and it has that niche in it right there, just like the Subterranean chamber at Giza does. They don't look exactly the same, but certainly to me, in my mind's eye, they represented the same thing. Here is another website that covered this find. Teotihuacan find boosts hope of a royal tomb. Liquid mercury was found here, residue. So the people here think that this chamber had a sacred lake or river represented down here, and they all connected it to the underworld. They say that this chamber represented a path or the underworld itself. Here is a look at the chamber beneath the Teotihuacan pyramid, and this is a little bit smaller than the Subterranean chamber at Giza, but I might do a video in the near future on the similarities, some pretty interesting ones between the pyramids of Giza and the pyramids at Teotihuacan. Did we have a culture a long time ago that put these sacred structures in and spread their knowledge around the world after a disaster? Well, that's all up for speculation. But people at one time got in here, left offerings, and the people researching here say that there was a sacred river or lake running through here that represented the underworld. Is that what was going on at Giza? Well, the niche in there, people think water was running through here at one time. I think that's entirely possible. In the Egyptian afterlife story, you have to descend into the underworld. There are the 12 divisions of the night that you have to pass through. There are snakes and other things you have to deal with on a boat ride down the river of the underworld. Is that what is represented at Giza? Well, I think that's entirely possible. The underworld is such an important story to these Mesoamerican cultures, and who knows who built Teotihuacan? We do not know for sure today who built Teotihuacan. Do we really know who built Giza? I'm just asking, but these places seem similar, and it was a very simple deduction. A sacred river of the underworld here at Teotihuacan. Well, can't we make that same judgment at Giza? The underworld story is so important there. And I think it's fascinating. We have two different cultures with a 3-pyramid complex that have stories of the underworld and similar chambers beneath the pyramid. Now, if you're familiar with ancient Egyptian texts, they relate the travel of the sun to stories of the kings and the people on earth. The Amduat is one important story here. It says the Amduat, and it says also translated as text of the hidden chamber, which is in the underworld. So do they tell us there's a hidden chamber that represents the underworld? Well, that's almost too common sense there. But it says here, it tells the story of Ra, the Egyptian sun god who travels through the underworld. From the time when the sun sets in the west and rises again in the east, it is said that the dead pharaoh is taking the same journey, ultimately to become one with Ra and live forever. Now, I have talked about this before, but not for a long time, and this really seals the deal for me. Each side of the pyramid represents a different thing. The east side represents birth, facing the rising sun. The west, death, the sun setting. That makes sense. The southern side represents the voyage of the sun across the day sky. And what does the north side represent? It represents the sun coming out of the underworld. Here is our diagram. Here is the passageway coming out of the subterranean chamber or the underworld. Which way is this going? It is going to the north, exactly the way the sun coming out of the underworld should be represented. But that is a video on the subterranean chamber at Giza. I believe it represents the underworld. I think the passageways in here are a story of the afterlife, ascension, journey to the afterlife, but I haven't talked about Giza for a long time. It was nice to kind of wrap my head around that mystery once again. I'll probably have more coming from there. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.